You haven't learned how to use your magic correctly. And you have virtually no combat experience at all. And yet you still risk your life to rescue me, Issei. Such a silly boy. I'm so sorry. You're so brave, so strong, and sweet. Thank you for everything, Issei.
The Riser arc in High School DxD is phenomenal. It's probably the most popular and universally loved arc in the anime, so the quality of this arc shouldn't be a surprise, and yet somehow I was still impressed with how they handled everything in these handful of episodes. There's so much compacted into this arc: character relationships, character development, foreshadowing, a ridiculously good rating game, plus it might do the best job at building the story and characters up out of any arc so far. It honestly surprised me, and I feel like I didn't mention it enough in my season 1 review, because all of these things fit together so well and they create arguably the most important arc in High School DxD. And they're able to do this without taking away the significance of the big fight with Riser. Everything is interwoven and there's not much that gets left out. It truly is a miracle that this arc didn't fall short, considering how much substance is in there. The overarching story of this arc is obviously the Riser rating game, a big fight with Rias' life on the line. If she loses, she has to marry Riser against her will. Everyone on Rias' team is fighting to protect the woman they love, and everyone on Riser's team is fighting to please their master. The stakes are massive for both sides, and the build-up to the fight establishes this. The build-up to the rating game was almost better than the rating game itself. It's masterfully done. Riser is shown immediately after the Rainier fight in episode 5. He acts as this looming presence that cuts into the happiness from that Rainier arc. The Riser rating game happens 5 episodes after this first presence, and in each episode leading to it, we get a hint to the rating game. In episode 6, you have Rias constantly looking off into the distance and talking about true love. Episode 7 has Rias and Sona getting chippy with each other as Sona hints to Riser. This one's a little bit more noticeable, but it still doesn't give anything away, but you can still tell something is coming up. Then you get to episode 8, which has the iconic scene of Rias trying to get Issei to take her, and it really becomes obvious that something is going on. The hints have been planted, but they aren't too direct, so when we eventually get the big Riser reveal, it legitimately seems like a big deal. And more importantly, it makes sense because it didn't come out of nowhere. We aren't just jumping from plot point to plot point. This arc is set up perfectly, and Riser's initial appearance is a massive deal. Having Riser come in unexpectedly and reveal that he's Rias' fiance works because of these moments with Rias. We saw this weighing on her mind earlier, and now we understand why she was acting that way, why she threw herself at Issei in a last-minute desperate attempt. It's a big deal. This scene is executed incredibly. Riser is very quickly established as a threat. It's very apparent by his confidence that he's strong, his presentation, how he's dressed, the flames that follow him everywhere. He's dressed like a playboy. I've always loved Riser's appearance. It adds to the hype towards the rating game against him because just from that alone, you can tell what type of person Riser is. He's hilariously egotistical. He talks in third person. When he enters a room, he whispers his last name into the wind. He talks to Rias like he's better than her, and he looks down on all of our main characters. He's an annoying, selfish, egotistical scumbag, and you can't wait until he gets humbled. And Riser's strength is clearly going to be a problem for our main characters. Having one of his lackeys go in and squash Issei immediately shows this. If a pawn can do this to our main character, then what can the king do? It's a very intense scene that adds a lot of excitement for the future. The stakes, the build-up, the villain, the conclusion. It all makes that rating game feel like the most important fight our characters will ever be in. Rias' life is on the line. Riser has to be humbled. Issei has to get his redemption after embarrassing himself. There's so much to be seen, and it only gets better from there. Because the entire next episode is dedicated to our characters training to beat Riser. They needed a 10-day training handicap because they're that much weaker than him. They do as much as they can, and we see that Issei especially has gotten stronger. He went from barely being able to fight with a sword to being able to do this. He learns so much from each and every character, and we see that payoff in the rating game. Issei looks like a completely different fighter from when he fought Rainier. During this training episode, Riser is built up like a monster. He's immortal, you can't hurt him, he's undefeated in rating games besides for 2 losses that he allowed to happen. He's a veteran who knows more about the game than Rias. There's so much buildup and hype for Riser that it almost feels hopeless for our main characters. But with everything on the line, Issei getting stronger, the importance of the match, it all feels so big, and the hype for the rating game is at an all-time high. That build right there, that is how it's done. That's how you make an audience care about an upcoming fight. The build up to the Riser rating game was one of the most masterfully executed things about season 1 of High School DxD, but somehow it isn't even the best build happening in this arc. Despite Riser being the overarching story, the best aspect of this part of season 1 is the relationship between Issei and Rias. This is the Issei and Rias arc. These two are both struggling at the same time, and it brings them together in such a satisfying way. Issei's confidence is completely shot coming off the Rainier arc. He's a complete failure of a devil. He can't get a pact, he can't get a familiar, he can't protect Asya, he can't stand up for Rias without embarrassing himself. Everyone around him is a natural talent, and they're all just flat out better than him. He's a loser, a failure, and by far the weakest in the group. He feels like he's constantly letting Rias down, and Rias notices this and tries to help him. She goes out on missions with him to help him get a pact. She tries to get him a familiar. She recognizes the mental struggle Issei is going through, and she, without hesitation, takes action. And she did all of this for him despite going through her own problems. While she's on these missions trying to get Issei a pact, she's thinking about Riser and how her life is about to be ruined forever. While she's trying to help Issei get a familiar, she's being reminded by her friend about the inevitable, the marriage to a man she doesn't love. That scene of her trying to get Issei to take her, it's one of the most popular scenes in the series, but for the wrong reasons. Yes, it has fan service. Yes, it is the closest our characters ever get to doing the deed. Yes, this scene should be popular, but not just because of those reasons. This scene should be popular because of what it shows us about Rias. This is a completely different side of her. It isn't her usual calm and strong self. She's desperate. Desperate for some reason we don't understand at the time. But looking back, knowing Riser is the reason she's acting so desperate, this becomes one of the saddest versions of Rias that we ever see. She's so lost that she tries to do it with Issei to get out of this engagement deal. This marriage with this man who doesn't view her as anything other than an object. She wants to ruin herself so that he won't see as much value in her. She's become a hostage to her family, and she's looking for an exit, a way out. Being forced to marry someone who she doesn't love, that's a fate worse than death to her, and she puts her pride to the side, she puts her family name to the side, and she tries to make a last-ditch effort, but she runs out of time. This scene is great. It perfectly projects Rias and her mindset. There is only one other time in the series where she acts like this, where she throws everything to the side in a fit of desperation, and that's the sauna scene in season 4, when she makes a similar move on Issei to try to show him that she views him as something more and that she wants something more with him. But that's a video for another day. The point is, this isn't normal for Rias. She isn't the type of person to do something like this, outside of a few extreme circumstances. This scene does everything it can to tell the audience that something is wrong, and it's a scene that only gets better when you already know the answer. Riser Phoenix. She's forced to confront the truth that she is Riser's bride. She is going to marry him. Her life is over. Until, of course, her knight in shining armor steps up and saves the day. Issei is always there for her. He's willing to step up to a noble, a high-class being because he knows this isn't what she wants. None of the other members dare to stand up to Phoenix, but Issei's different. He always has been different in that way. He's such a good-hearted character. Rias watches as her weakest servant steps up to Riser and gets knocked out immediately. It makes her snap. Seeing Issei is willing to fight Riser for her, we see a rare moment where Rias is willing to go against the wishes of the people above her, against the wishes of her family, and she accepts the rating game offer. A move that nobody in her group expected. It's such a good scene when you look at all the characters being built up at the same time. Issei, Rias, Riser, his peerage, Graphia, all at the same time, and it's executed very well. And then you head over to the training episode and it gets even better. This episode is one of the best in season 1. In the last few episodes, Rias acknowledged Issei's failure as a devil and how that will affect his confidence, and now in this episode she works to fix that and to build his confidence up by making him stronger. This episode gives us a deep look inside of both Issei and Rias. During the training, Issei can see just how much better everyone around him is in almost every way. Even Asya is able to do things that he can't do. Issei's the weakest link on the team, and of course this affects him. Of course it hurts his confidence. And we see that in one of the most important and impactful conversations in the entire series. Issei and Rias have both been fighting this entire time, fighting their inner demons, fighting reality, fighting the inevitable. It's such a good conversation that I'll never be able to do justice. Rias knows that the odds are against her, but she wants to fight for herself and prove to herself that she matters beyond her name. She wants to fight for love and prove that she deserves it. She wants to be able to experience that, but she can't with Riser in the way. We get to see a vulnerable Rias and establish one of her insecurities and one of her strengths at the same time. She has to deal with the heavy expectations placed upon her by her family, and she struggles to live up to that. And that's why she compares herself to her brother all the time. Even here, they want her to marry someone who's high class. Even if she doesn't want it, she's just expected to do those things. And that affects Rias' confidence heavily beyond this point. Throughout the series, we see it affecting her. But Rias is strong. Her strength lies in her leadership. She's able to build an unbreakable bond with her servants, and that's what makes her so powerful. We see this in the Riser rating game. Riser's team is scared of Riser, and they don't want to disappoint him, while the Grimmery team all believe in Rias and would die for her, and they give it their all in the game. She's such a highlight of the season, inspiring hope in both the character and the viewer. The only reason why the rating game was so close is because of the characters' connections with each other. They're fighting for one another, not just themselves, not just to please their master. Rias is at her best in the entire series in this arc, and it's so sad to see her dwindle as the series goes on. She's so inspiring that it breaks Issei. He does it again. He compares himself to the people around him. He can see Rias' strength, and it makes him feel weak. Issei feels like a real person here when he breaks down. His insecurities and his issues with his confidence, they make sense with how much buildup we got for it. This is absolutely one of my favorite conversations in the entire series, and it shows us a different side to these characters that give them more depth. Rias is there to pick Issei up again and show him that he just needs to believe in himself. I won't ever stop talking about this detail at the end of episode 9, where we see how much stronger Issei has gotten. He's able to boost more than ever, and he's able to unlock the dragon shot, a new powerful technique. Issei initially hesitates to use this technique because he doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't believe the power that he holds. But in this moment, yet again, Rias is there to pick Issei up and tell him to believe. And Issei is blown away by the power behind his dragon shot. We finally see just how much he has improved, but more importantly, he finally sees his own improvement, and that gives him a massive confidence boost heading into the rating game. Rias is such a big character for Issei in this arc. She's constantly trying to pick him up and make sure he believes in himself. A big moment of this is when she unleashes that power back into Issei. In this conversation, Issei realizes that he was never letting Rias down, and it acts as another big boost of confidence for him, because that was one of the biggest reasons for his initial loss in confidence. Rias constantly scolding him for not being able to be a devil. It's another good moment that continues to build this relationship between the two. They feel so close, and it feels even more real because it's not just Rias who's there to lift Issei up. Issei is also there for Rias when she's down. In that conversation at the end of episode 9, when Rias expresses her dream to Issei about how she wants to be loved for being her instead of just her last name. She wants to be acknowledged and viewed as her own individual and separate from her family. Issei makes it clear to her that he loves her for her. He doesn't care about her last name. He only cares about Rias, not Grimmery. And that's a big deal for her at the time, because everyone else just looks at her as if she's just a piece of the family. She's not an individual, she's a title. But to Issei, she's obviously the love of his life. He doesn't place those high expectations on her because of the family she was born in. He just wants her to be happy. These two are easily the best thing about this entire season because of their relationship. They're both always there for each other, even though they're both going through their own mental issues. The Riser rating game is such a big fight for both of them because they have to prove to themselves that they can do it. They can do the impossible. They can change fate. And the rating game itself, wow, it's better than I remember. Of course, course, it has that suspense and atmosphere because of all that buildup I talked about. We can see how motivated our characters are to win this rating game. They're all willing to die for Rias. There's a few big highlights about the rating game that make it special. Everyone looks good in it. Akano blows people up and she acts as this executioner who delivers the final blow. She feels like the second strongest character on the team. Konako has a great showing against Riser's pieces. Even though she was the first person taken out, they were able to take her out of the game without making her look weak. Asya is constantly healing Rias and making sure she doesn't die against Riser. Rias shows some great leadership in the fight. She's able to pull the team back together each time after they lose a friend. Even though she also feels the effects of losing these pieces, she stays strong, puts herself together, and motivates the team to get back into the fight, and it works. And then of course, Kiba and Issei were obviously the highlights. These two took out like 12 pieces in total. It was insane. But Issei in particular was definitely the most interesting because you can see him using the things that he learned in the training episode for this rating game. It's so interesting to see how Issei fights because he doesn't fight. He just buys time for his special attacks to build up. Most of the fights are spent dodging and boosting. He's not a good hand-to-hand combatant, so he just relies on his special techniques that he learned, like the dragon shot and the dress break. Issei successfully using these moves creates some adorable moments where you can see how proud of himself he is. He wasn't good at fighting, he wasn't good with magic, but he didn't give up. Instead, he put all of his effort into creating his own techniques that he can rely on. And that's the whole point of Issei's training. Finding something that he can rely on, something that he can do well, something that he can believe in. And we see him using those things to his full extent, and it's very satisfying. It's satisfying seeing him come from nothing to finally having a reason to believe in himself. Issei was definitely the highlight of the fight, but the best part of the rating game is the ending, of course, when Issei has his famous final stance against Riser. We see how good of a person Issei is. At this point, he's given it his all. He has nothing left, but that doesn't matter to him. All that matters is her. He gets up over and over again, refusing to allow her to be in pain for the rest of her life. His resilience is able to even scare Riser of all people. In this moment, we see the type of person Riser is. He's tough on the outside, but very weak-minded. Issei never giving up and not backing down scares Riser to the point where he's willing to just throw all the rules to the side and kill Issei. He has a weak mind, and that's exploited in the final fight with Riser. But it also contrasts with Issei. Issei, on the other hand, looks weak on the outside. He's always crying, he's very emotional, he's just not an intimidating looking guy. But Issei mentally is the strongest person in this rating game. Him and Riser contrast each other in that way, and it's very interesting. But of course, the fight ends with Rias resigning the game to save Issei's life because she just can't bear to see him in pain. Both Issei and Rias are going through the same thing in this moment. More than anything, they want their other half to be happy, to be safe, and they're both willing to endure whatever it takes to make that happen. Issei is willing to die to save Rias, and Rias is willing to accept a fate worse than death to save Issei. And it creates one of the most shocking and chill-inducing scenes in the entire series. This whole fight is just a roller coaster of emotions. Every time you feel hope, something bad happens, whether that be Yubaluna blowing the characters up or Rias resigning the game. There's so many unpredictable moments that snatch the joy out of the viewer's eyes. What a fight. But now, Issei is forced to deal with his failure again. He couldn't save Rias just like he couldn't save Asya. He's crushed. Compare that to Rias, who now has to accept the fact that she'll never find true love, but all she can think about is Issei. Even in the worst moment of her life, all she can think about is Issei and how much pain he must be in. I love how they did these two in this arc. They are inseparable. They legitimately feel like soulmates. No matter how bad the situation is for them, they can't help but think of the other person. When Issei eventually crashes the wedding, fights Riser, and beats him, you're left with one of the most satisfying moments in the entire series. Riser is finally humbled. He finally has no choice but to take Issei seriously. And the way Issei beats Riser, using everything he learned from his friends during the training arc, it's so adorable, and it was hinted at in that training episode. Almost everything that happens in this arc was hinted at in a previous episode. Issei used a whole unholy items to damage Riser physically and mentally. He learned that from Asuya. Issei fusing the water into the gauntlet and using that as a weapon. He learned that from Akano. Issei dodging Riser's blows and not being touched by him. He learned that from Kiba. And of course, Issei delivering the final crushing blow to Riser was learned from Konako. But the most important one, Issei believing in himself, that was learned from Rias. It's a beautiful callback that you can't help but smile at. Issei put his all into this fight to the point where he gave up his hand just to save Rias. In another moment that has been hinted at since episode 8, Issei and Drake talking to each other. It's such an interesting concept, and the execution in later episodes is even better. But in these conversations, we understand more about what Issei has inside of him. We even get a little bit of a volley hint, which just cemented this arc as the best when it comes to connecting future plot points together. This arc is phenomenal, and it shows us how good of a person Issei is, and his kindness and hard work finally pay off. It feels so earned when Issei beats Riser because of how many hardships he's gone through up until this point. This is easily the most satisfying moment so far. There is no dead friend. There is no Rainier trauma. There is no powerful foe watching from above. It's just Issei finally proving to himself that he can do it. But most importantly, Rias gets to come home. He saved the love of his life. And we finally get to see it. The kiss. The kiss between the two feels so earned. These two spent the entire arc struggling together, always thinking about each other, fighting for each other, constantly trying to help each other. These two are the best thing about this arc. The build up to this moment, the insecurities, the conversation, it's all done so well. And this moment right here is the closest these two feel for the next few seasons. It feels like they're already a couple at this point. It's such a heartwarming way to end the season. But of course, we all know that someone is still lurking in the back of Issei's mind and preventing him from pulling the trigger. But either way, this arc impressed me in almost every way. The build up to everything was immaculate. The foreshadowing, the characters, the conversations, the fights, both major fights are extremely entertaining. And the conclusion, one of the most satisfying and heartwarming conclusions you'll see in the entire series. The Riser rating game arc is something special, and I could talk forever about each episode because there's so much in them, but it all just fuses together and you're left with the most important arc in High School DxD. And there goes that video. Yeah, I had a lot to say after I rewatched High School DxD. I really like this arc. I might like it more than the Rainier arc. I don't know. I'll probably do a video ranking every arc. I know I still have a few other arcs I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Kiba Holy Sword arc, and then I want to talk about the arc that comes after that, the second arc of season 2. I don't know if I'll do season 3 or season 4's arcs. It just depends how I feel. But I've also been working on the subscriber fanfic video. I'm probably like halfway done with reading everyone's fanfics. We still got some ways to go. And of course, I have some other projects. Volume 10 review. We'll see how that does. YouTube didn't like my Volume 9 review, so we'll see. But we did get some new members. Dawn Tostada out. I'm Still a Duck. And Nate 2 Clutch. Thank you all for joining the membership. I appreciate that. Always, always. Of course, I have some new membership videos coming out. So yeah, you guys can all look forward to all that. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.